I am here today with author Rick Paetzke. He is the author of the newly released book, Life of Miracles. I am so excited to be joined by Rick today. And Rick, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your book?
Well, my book is, sorry, been very emotional lately. I think it's part of my deep desire when I wrote the book was to let people know there was such a real presence in God in my life where there's many times I should have died. I should have never made it. And freaky things happened throughout my life where it wasn't for supernatural things intervening. I think I should have died, you know. And I wrote the book. I want to let people know at least I know him as God. I'm a chaplain now, and I love God now, and I'm a firm believer of Jesus Christ, that I know he's alive. But either I'm Superman or there's been bizarre things going on in this world that I can't explain naturally. Things where I should have been, like one time I was on a pier, I was fishing. I wasn't even being careful. I was at the end of the pier. I was like 9 years old, and I wasn't even thinking, you know. And I remember my uncle coming down and saying, "Hey, what are you doing on that log at the end of the pier?" Because he uses it for bowheads at nighttime, and it's unstable. You could fall in and drown. You know how kids listen. And I said, "Okay, Uncle," and I get off the log. He goes up to the cottage, and I'm back on the log again, playing around. Before I know it, I lost my balance, and I did fall in. Now I'm drowning. I'm going under and coming up, going under. And about the third time I kept taking on water, I wasn't getting no oxygen, and I started to black out. And I'm thinking, oh, man, I'm going to die, But before I blacked out, I felt something rip me out of the water real fast. But I didn't see anything. I blacked out by that point. But I swore I felt something yank me out. Now, this is the weird part. Can you imagine yanking out of the water, you're drowning, and the next moment you wake up, you're in a bed with dry clothes on. And I'm thinking, okay, how did I get here? I don't remember being revived. I don't remember pumping my stomach or anything. I felt fine, as if nothing happened. Now, this is strange. I'm thinking, was I dreaming I was drowning? I know I was fishing. So I went down to the kitchen, and my parents were there. And what my parents said to me blew my mind. And I was thinking, because I didn't know what to say. I'm so dumbfounded. And they said something that didn't make sense to me later. Even in the book, I didn't make it that clear because that's what my uncle revived me. But there's no facts for that, because what my parents said, they said, how could you go swimming and get wet and take a nap on the pier? You could have rolled in the water and drowned. I'm thinking, wait a minute. They found me on the pier sleeping with wet clothes on? I was drowning, okay? So something took me out of the water, revived me, and left me there, and they came down and saw me sleeping on the pier. Now, come on. Now, if that ain't freaky, what is that? And I stood at that age thinking, okay, maybe my uncle revived me. But my parents never ever talked about it. They never said, you're lucky you didn't die that day. Why, we had to pump you out and nothing. So I believe a miracle literally took me out. God revived me and left me there to my parents found me. So that's just like one of the things in the story. Then there's a time in the Navy, I was actually living for God. And I was just singing, a Christian song as I'm going to the escape hatch. And I worked on a battleship. And then when I worked on this battleship, there's this metal ladder on the main deck that goes down into the ship where there's a bunch of machinery. And it's 2 stories down, and underneath there's big valves sticking out with big long stems, big machines. If you land on that stuff, you're history or paralyzed. One of the other. And, when you're young, you're stupid. I was like 20 years old. And, the hole is only like 2 feet away. I'm just going to hop on the ladder. You know what happens if you miss? Well, I ain't thinking that. So I jumped in the hatch. My feet went perfect. My hands went towards the ladder, but I missed the ladder. So now I'm trying to keep my balance 2 stories up. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to fall backwards. And I'm thinking I'm going to crash against the bottom of the deck. And I cried out, Jesus, help me. All of a sudden, my body goes flying forward and grabs it by itself. I go, oh, thank you, Jesus. And the sailor saw it. You go, Paetzke, how do you get back on the ladder, man? Angels, you're crazy. Get down here. I said, well, I'm serious, man. Somebody put me on. We don't care. Just hang on the ladder and get down here. So how do you explain stuff like this? I mean, come on, was that an angel or my Superman? it's just bizarre. Now I'm in a water tank one day, and I'm trying to, just worrying about myself and cleaning up, and I'm kind of like in the water tank up to my knees, and I'm thinking like, oh, I can't see in this tank. It's all dark. So I grabbed these string of lights that were in the hallway of the ship, and I tied it up with some wet string, you know, and all of a sudden something told me I'm not inside it. Now you think I think I'm going crazy, okay? And all of a sudden I hear a voice says, "Trust me, you'll be okay." Trust who? Who's out there? I'm thinking a sailor is talking to the hole, and no reply. Just trust me. Who? I'm thinking, what's going on here? And all of a sudden, snap! The light falls in the fixture, but corner that this falls in the water, okay, and it's sizzling. And something says, "Pick it up." So I touching that, it's sizzling. And pick it up. And before I know, my arm's going by itself. I'm closing my eyes, thinking I'm going to die, So I grabbed it. Okay. Oh, no electrocution. Okay. So I tied it up, thinking I'm just imagining things. Now some voices in my mind. Why don't you believe? Believe what? I'm going crazy. Snap! It breaks again in the water. Pick it up. I got out. I'm done. I'm done with this tank. I'm freaking out. Why does the thing keep falling in the water and sizzling, and I'm not getting fried? So I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be water resistant. Now it's eating me up inside. So I get out of the water tank, clean up the mess, go. I talk to an electrician. And I talk to the electrician, and he says, I say, hey, I was in this water tank. You know those lights in the hallway of the ship? They fell in the water when I was cleaning the tank, and they're water resistant, right? Oh, no, Paetzke, they're 400 direct volts. You're crystal clear. I said, no, it happened to me. He goes, Paetzke, I don't have time for jokes. I'm serious. It happened to me. He goes, whatever. I gotta go, man. You've been electrocuted, man. I don't have time for your jokes. He thinks I'm making up the story. So okay, now this things like this throughout my life, I have super encounters where things just happen, and I don't want to say every story, but there's just so many things from my childhood up, all the way up to the present day, where God just did literally miracles that everybody else were witnesses of it. Like one time I had my arm stuck in a ringer, and it got stuck, and it rubbed the raw skin off all the way to the bone. And the doctor said, I'm going to need a skin graft. And I wasn't even a Christian then, didn't know about it that much. I just knew there was a God, but my parents didn't understand me at that point yet. And they told me that I was going to need a skin graft. And I found out as a kid, I was all nervous, and I just didn't want to, I was just scared about skin graft. Because when he told me to put it on your chest here, he cut it off. And I'm thinking, I don't like the thought of it being cut off here. I mean, if I show you, it's like, it's here for a second. Here's this scar here, still a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think the Lord left a little scar to prove that it would happen. But is what happened. The night I was supposed to go in, because he kept putting salve on it just to keep the infection, make sure no infection comes in. And a couple weeks later, I had to go in, and I prayed the day before. I said, "Oh Jesus or God, I don't want to have skin graft. Please heal me. I really believe you can do it." And all of a sudden, like something in my mind just told me to trust. And I just stopped thinking about it, and I felt peaceful. So I woke up the next morning, and my mom said, "Ready to go to the doctor's office?" I said, "Yeah, he's not going to give me a skin graft. I won't need it. God told me I'm fine." So she's thinking, okay. I get to the doctor, and I says, "Hey, Rick, we'll look at this. Hope you move on to the next step." I said, "Oh, don't worry. We don't need no next step. I'll be healed, I won't need no skin graft." And he's looking at me like, okay, and looks at it. He says, "Let me be the judge of that." He pulls off the bandages, and he's shocked. His eyes bulge out and he's like perplexed. He's staring at it with awe. And I'm thinking, what is he looking at? So he goes in the hallway, and I can overhear my parents talking to the doctor. "Did you give him anything else besides the salve I gave you to put on to keep the infection down?" "No, doc, just that stuff." He says, "You sure?" Because he won't need skin grafts. And he goes, "What do you mean?" And she says, "He grew 3 or 4 layers of skin he didn't have." Skin grew back over it. And that doesn't happen. So it was another miracle. So like I said, I could be here all day, but I won't tell the book. But I believe this book will inspire people in the reality of God's presence. And this, I noticed throughout my life, through faith, believing and calling on Him whenever I was in danger. Ever since a lot of those points, it started after a while when I became a believer. Jesus, help me! Every time, He's delivering me from car accidents, from electrocution, like I said, drowning. I can't explain it. He got me even trucks. I was doing the semis control, and I'm a FedEx driver now, and I'm losing control of the semi in the snow, and I was like, oh Jesus, instant straight, say. So yes, things like that were in the book to prove to them there's a divine world going on, and a lot of us don't realize the world of the supernatural. It's just actually going on, and people, I believe, I interviewed people one day just when I was selling books, because I sold close to 300 myself. People were just inspired by the book, and most of these people had bizarre stories they're telling me, like, wow, yeah, because I would never fall off the ladder. I don't know how I felt the wind put me back on, and a lot of people in the world, if you're honest, they had close calls, and they're wondering, how did I get through this? You hear stories about car accidents where people are trapped in the car, and they're saying there's no way they could be a survivor, and they cut them out, and they're completely intact, as if the car was molded around their body and not didn't touch their body. When most people are crushed, killed instantly. So, I mean, how do you explain those things? Luck? I don't think so. I think if it ain't your time, you ain't going nowhere. I believe I'm meant to be somewhere 2 weeks from now. I can hit my truck tomorrow, but I'll be there 2 weeks later. Either walking or whatever, but I'm going to be there. So that's a firm thing I've learned. The reason why I wrote the book, like I said, is to inspire people, give people hope. During this COVID and during the war going on, a lot of people are scared. They're really worried about their life. This book will inspire, let you know God is really real, and He's active in this world. Nothing's going to happen without His permission, and He has a purpose for everybody, and He's trying to reach everybody because He died for the whole world. A lot of people overlook John 3:16, but for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in Him should not perish. That means whoever, no matter who you are, what denomination, what background. See, in this book, I'm not promoting a church or a denomination. I'm promoting the new birth. I believe you should be born in God's Spirit. You should have God come in your life and transform you, and have faith that He exists, that He loves you. But without the faith in Him and trusting Him, we don't know what we're doing. We need to have that new birth experience. And that's pretty much what I just pretty much talk about, and tell them to find a church, ask God to lead them to a place where He wants them to be, and then God will lead them. So that's pretty much it. I'm sorry, just rambling on here.
No, your life is interesting. It's such a testimony to God's grace and what He's able to do. I know you kind of touched on this a little bit, the inspiration behind the book, but what really was your inspiration to put pen to paper and really write down all of these events in your life?
Right. Well, this was the bizarre part. I dropped out of high school. I don't know. I always thought I was considered a moronic person. I didn't realize till years later when God was with me, when I went to college, I actually was more smarter than I thought it was. But I was like a D, C person. I got A's. It was in gym. I would have been considered a jock back in the day. But when I became a believer and I started living for Jesus, all these miraculous things kept happening. But see, the thing is, what happened? God wanted me to write my story. He did, but it was a certain time. But there was a time after the Navy, after many years, He was trying to tell me to write the book. In my mind, He kept through other testimonies, even like, oh, so many stories to share. You should put a book out. Yeah. I'm thinking, I felt like Moses, like, oh God, I can so speech. Have Aaron talk to write a book. Not me. So I kind of had that kind of thinking going on. And then. It's like, it didn't make sense to me at first. When I first got saved, when I was 12, when I accepted Jesus as my personal Savior, when I asked the sinner's prayer once, a weird thing happened where my arms literally were pulled up. And I went into a vision, I saw Jesus, and I'm thinking, wow. And He told me He loved me, and I wanted to leave earth. I wanted to go with Him. He said, no, someday you'll be with me. I need you to stay here to tell people about me. And of course, I can argue with God. I said, okay, Jesus. He said, I'll always be with you. And He let my arms down and my eyes. I thought I was awake because all of a sudden I see the two girls that were praying with me standing there. Hey, how do you feel? Oh, I'm great. I saw Jesus. Hand up. I was in a vision or something. And then I still didn't understand. And He said, many people were drawn to me because of your testimony at that time. So later on in the Navy, I go to church. He leads me to church. He literally led me to this guy. Talk to Jeff. I'm hearing a voice on the ship telling him to talk to Jeff. And going before I know it, hey, Jeff, I don't know why, but I'll go to your church. And then I go to his church. God fills me with His Holy Spirit, and I'm transformed. I get baptized. I come out of the water. And Jesus said, this is my promise as a little child, that the power of God will be on you. Many people will draw to you because of your testimony. And I'm thinking, okay, that's great, And then, hey, do you hear that? God's going to use me. And they go, that's good, brother. They had no clue that God was fulfilling things. Again, He mentioned that thing again. And then I had an encounter, even out with 3 angels in the church. They came to talk. I didn't know they were angels at first. They were strangers that came into the church. They were behind the back pew, and I seen them walk in the middle of the service. They came in and they sat down, and they all looked weird. They're dressed like in robes and freaky looking. And I thought they were hippies or something, And I said, wow, that's strange, And they walked behind me. I greeted them. I said, hi, my name's Rick. Invited them to church, shake some hands. And they introduced themselves, and that's what blew my mind. I thought they were crazy. Oh, I'm Balthazar, and I'm Balthazar. And then, I'm thinking, I'm blowing off the names. And woo, they're way out there. Yeah. And then they say later on, I talked to him, who told you about me? And he said, oh, God sent us. Oh, that's good. He said, you talk to him every day? He said, yeah, we talk to him every day. And we have a message from him. You got a message from him? He said, yeah, he sent us. And I'm thinking, these guys are whacked. Okay. They need Jesus bad. And he says, the Lord wants to tell you something. They had this like, it looked like a horse Bible. I'm a big family man, but I couldn't see the inside of the page. He had it open. And he started quoting scriptures, but then talking about how God's going to use me with these scriptures. And the power of God's going to be upon me. And then people drawn to me because of my testimony. And, God will be with me in a mighty way. I'm thinking, okay. He said, well, we must go again. When I see you again, he said, if the Lord wills it, we have to go. So they end up leaving. Well, I ran out after them and invited back to church. And guess what? I got to the parking lot. There was no people walking away or driving away. They disappeared. I'm thinking, wow. And I'm not on drugs. I'm church, okay? I love Jesus. I don't do drugs for years at that time. And I'm thinking, like, okay. I don't know what to say. I think I'm going crazy. So then I asked a brother later on. He says, I said, you see hippies I talked to? And he says, Brother Rick, we knew you were talking to someone, but we didn't see who you're talking to. I'm thinking, I shook their hand. It felt real to me. I'm serious. They were real. And whatever. And I think, okay, well, I'm sorry I had to say all that because the point is, God also wanted me to write my story, and I didn't do it. And I think it froze for a second. Okay, as I was writing my, I was going to prison chaplain for many years. I was with the inmates because I had a burden for criminal inmates because I was a crack addict and a drug alcoholic for a while and got super free from that too. So I had a burden for people in the jail. And he's been telling me many times already. So one day it happened, the doors closed. No longer I had any ministry at all. Because God was trying to tell me to write this story and I didn't want to do it. No, I ain't doing it. I ain't qualified. I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden, one day, clear as day, when I was praying, after ministry closed, I had nothing to do. I'm just working at FedEx, and I'm kind of sad, miserable, because God's not using me hardly anymore. All of a sudden, he spoke to me clear as day in prayer one day. He says, no more excuses, write your book. Okay, I'll write it. And I don't know what to write. And I tell you, I prayed every time before I sat down to type it, and like a year later, I did it. He was inspiring me. He said, it just flew. All my history from a childbirth all the way up to today, everything was filling in the blank. And he was like inspiring me. And I go, oh, I never thought I forgot about that. And that's how the Lord had me do it. I was literally inspired because he wanted me, because it was my testimony that he was going to use. Because in the Revelation it says people overcame by the testimony of the Lord, what the Lord has done for them. And testimony is the most powerful thing. When you try to tell people, even like Paul, he talked about his testimony about how he had the Damascus Road experience and it was knocked down and woke him up. Okay, God, if you're Jesus, then you must be the Messiah. And so basically it happened to me. My testimony is going to prove to people God is actively working in this world. And he literally drew me out, did all these miraculous things and more. And it's really, after you read that book, if you don't believe in God now, you should. If not, it's going to make you feel like you want to. I wrote it to reach 3 different types of people: the backslider, the person that's already saved and spurred the faith, and also to reach, it's written simple enough just for people that don't even know God, to make them really think, hey, is God real? So that's what led me to do it. It was God led me to write the book.
Incredible. And Rick, is there anything else that you want to add, want to tell your audience today about your book, some of the things in the pages that you might think are noteworthy for them to know right off the bat?
Well, like I said, it's really important to be able to read the book and then try to share with others. And I wanted to share a couple of scriptures because the thing is, the main thing I want people to get out of is not the reality of that God is real and that he's actively trying to reach out to people. It's God that draws us to him. I mean, the Bible says, that we are a chosen generation, royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own very special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. So God is calling all people to be a testimony to others, and that's why he called disciples. He's been doing it from the day of disciples until present day, until he returns. He's always trying to reach out to each generation to give many people time to find Christ. And that he also always had angels over us. He says he shall give his angels charge over you. It says in Psalms, and keeping all your ways. And he definitely did that with me, because there was times if something didn't literally grab me, put me on ladders, or when I should have hit someone with a car and go on and on. Angels are real. People need to realize God has got angels over, watch over people, especially them that have a purpose. If he sees someone, because he knows everybody's heart, he knows who's going to be saved and who's not. It's not that there's predestination. Everybody's calling out to everybody. It's just some people don't receive, listen to his voice. They kind of like, no, I don't need him. And it's sad, but actually God is reaching out to all people. And the story will help people see that God's love is so real, and he's always trying to reach out. But I've noticed the biggest thing I want them to know is the power of Jesus' name. I'm calling on him and having faith in that name. Because when everybody exercises faith in such a strong way, God will come through for you. But you got to believe like the 3 Hebrew boys did. Like, hey, we're not going to sin against God. We're not going to bow down to this idol that you made. We're told not to worship any idols, and we won't do it. So we believe the Lord can save us, but even if he doesn't, we're not going to bow. And of course, because they kept their faith in God, and they refused, and they kept their trust God more important than what man said. When they were thrown in the fiery furnace, you know what happened? They survived. Jesus Christ is there in the background, walking with them, and they were strong. They spoke, and they came out, and he became a believer. Trust me, because of that faith. Now, of course, the key thing is people need to realize, I'm not trying to say we should go. You can't be tempting God. I can't say, okay, I'm going to jump off this building. God, catch me. Hey, you're going down. You're breaking the net, because you tempted God. That. So the thing is, I just, from experience, whenever I was in danger, just to call on Jesus, and I believe every time. One quick thing, there was a time when my wife, he also answers prayers with others, not just you. My wife and I was in the boat. Well, she was my wife at the time, she was my girlfriend, but the boat flips over. She's disabled. She didn't have a life. Okay. When before the boat flips over, I remember saying, "Oh, Jesus, help us," because I knew that when these sailboats went by, that we were in trouble. I found myself hanging onto the boat, and I don't know how I got on top. I never went underwater. I'm like, okay, how did I get here? Why did I go underwater? And then I realized my girlfriend, Christine, wasn't coming up. So, oh, Jesus, don't let her die. She don't know you yet. So she comes flying out of the water. All of a sudden, I grabbed her. She literally tapped the water. And I go, wow, okay. And I grabbed her arm. The platoon boat came to help us. He later on gets into the car and says, I'm your hero. I said, I ain't your hero. You could have died today. You should have had your life jacket on. We were foolish. She goes, no, you saved me. I'm sinking to the bottom of the lake. I thought you grabbed me here, underneath my arm, and take me to the top. I didn't grab it. Who grabbed it? Again, I done a freaky thing, but because I asked Jesus each time to help me. Look at what he did for me. I'm not nothing special. I'm just Rick Paetzke. I'm a nobody. Okay, in the world's eyes, I'm probably just a moron. But I could care less what people think. I had to see too much of the supernatural. And the key thing is, the book will help you realize, by calling on Jesus, if you ask him for help sincerely from the heart, admit to him that you're a sinner and you have issues. God wants to help you, but you got to believe first. The Bible says, without faith, it's impossible to please him. He that comes to God must believe that he is, and that he's rewarded them that what? That diligently seek him. I saw him a lot, and when he answered that prayer. And faith is what moves God. It's by faith. Throughout the Bible, that's how people were moved and helped by God, because of their faith. Without faith, you ain't going to even make connections. So you got to step out with faith first. And that's pretty much, I'm emphasizing the power of faith, trusting God with all your heart. That's pretty much it.
Rick, what an incredible book, an incredible testimony. Thank you so much for sharing today. And for the audience, you can find his book, Life of Miracles. It's out now. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iTunes. It comes in paperback, ebook, and audiobook version. So definitely check that out and get your copy today. Thank you so much, Rick, for joining us.
Thank you. I hope to see you again.